Welcome everybody to a brand new installment of Renegades Reviews right here on the Casa D18 Studios YouTube channel. I am the Renegade JJ Williams, and today I'm going to be discussing the 1990 Tom Hanks comedy Joe Versus the Volcano, also starring Meg Ryan, Lloyd Bridges, Abe Vigoda, and Amanda Plummer. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me today on yet another new installment of Renegades Reviews. I'm the Renegade JJ Williams, here to bring you my thoughts and reviews on movies both old and new. This month, we are featuring the works of Tom Hanks. I've stated it numerous times, Tom Hanks I felt was a great choice to start with. Everybody seems to love Tom Hanks films, and there is no such thing as a bad Tom Hanks movie. Also, for those of you that may just be joining us, that haven't been here for the rest of the week so far, all these episodes that are going up currently have been recorded previously. I am still living in the age of coronavirus. We still may be living in the age of coronavirus once this goes live. As of this filming, movie theaters in Southern California, or at least in my area of Southern California, have not reopened. So until such time, all my reviews are going to be classic movies. Once they do reopen, you'll be getting a double feature day every single week here on Renegades Reviews and the Casa D18 Studios channel, because if I don't tackle the new releases while they're in theaters, they won't be new releases anymore. That said, today's film is the 1990 comedy Joe Versus the Volcano. It's the very first movie of the 90s we're going to tackle with Tom Hanks. In my opinion, arguably the 90s was the decade of Tom Hanks. Things like League of Their Own, which we'll be getting to in a couple of days, Sleepless in Seattle, Philadelphia, Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, That Thing You Do, The Green Mile, Toy Story. I could just keep going. All movies that we found with Tom Hanks during the 90s. All movies that'll be touched on at some point or another on this channel, because they're all movies worth reviewing. Today, though, as I said, Joe Versus the Volcano, starring Tom Hanks as Joe Banks, Meg Ryan, arguably at the time the female version of Tom Hanks. I mean, she was just the girl next door, so pretty, so beautiful. Had a good string of hits under her belt, too. She actually has a triple role in this movie. 3 different characters. She plays Dee Dee, a receptionist at Tom Hanks's job, and then Angelica and Patricia, 2 daughters who work for, I have his name, for Sam Graynamore. They're 2 of his daughters. They're also half-sisters. So she plays a triple role there. We've got Lloyd Bridges, who plays Sam Graynamore. Abe Vigoda as the chief of the little tribe, the Waponis. And Amanda Plummer as Dagmar, one of the members of the crew on the ship. Now, Joe Banks, he's a down-on-his-luck office worker. He works at a factory in Staten Island, an unpleasant boss. You know, this is all stuff we can relate to. How many of us, show of hands, not like I can see you raise them, but show of hands here, how many of us have worked at a job that we dreaded going to for a boss that didn't appreciate us? Yeah, I'm pretty sure every single person right now watching this, unless you're not old enough to have a work permit, can relate to this at some point in their life. Joe is always going to doctor's appointments on his lunch breaks because he feels in his heart of hearts that something is wrong with him. He just doesn't know what. And no doctor can find anything technically, physically wrong with him. However, one day he sees Dr. Ellison, who tells him he has an incurable disease called a brain cloud, and that all of his problems are psychosomatic from trauma he endured at his previous job of being a firefighter. The doctor tells him he's got 5 to 6 months to live, so he needs to make the most of it. After receiving the diagnosis, Joe goes back to work. He goes off on his boss. His boss gives him crap for being gone for 3 hours at lunch while he was at this doctor's appointment. Joe figures he's got nothing left to lose. He's only got a short time to live. He quits and just rips into his boss. Just beautiful, beautiful scene of him going off. Then he asks Dee Dee on a date. Excuse me. They go out, they have an awesome date until they get back to his house. Once they return to his house, he tells her his fate and she leaves. She can't deal with that. She's not going to be in a relationship for 5 or 6 months with a guy that she's really into, kind of digging, and then he dies on her. And can kind of understand that. Like, while it sucks for Joe to not have anybody to deal with this drama, this, stuff that's going on with him, you can kind of understand her position because she doesn't want to be the person to grow severely attached to him just to lose him. The next day, Joe gets a visit from Samuel Graynamore. And Graynamore decides to make a proposal to Joe because he kind of knows about what's going on with Joe. This right there raises some suspect with me because, you got that doctor-patient's confidentiality. Somehow Graynamore knows what's going on. So he makes a proposal to Joe, asks him to go to this small island called Waponi-Wu. It's a small Pacific island with very superstitious natives. They believe that their fire god must be fed a human sacrifice once a century. And in order, if they do this, if they feed their fire god a sacrifice, then their island will continue to be prosperous, and it'll remain active, and everybody will be happy. So Joe's like, well, whatever, I've only got 5 or 6 months left to live. Forget it, I'll do it. I'll jump into the volcano for you and try to sacrifice myself to your fire gods. Why not? Before he leaves New York, though, he has a night on the town, complete with a chauffeur, and goes out and he has fun, and he even buys these 4 waterproof steamer trunks, which at the time were like, well, whatever, it's just a frivolous purchase. He doesn't have anything to live for, so why not? But trust me, it'll come back. The next day he flies out to LA to begin his journey, and upon arrival in LA, he's greeted by Angelica, once again Meg Ryan. And Angelica is a ditzy socialite, like she's your typical daddy rich girl socialite. And as we've established, she's one of Graynamore's daughters. So Angelica takes Joe to her dad's yacht, the Tweedledee. Disney reference. And this is where he gets introduced to Patricia, who's the captain of the yacht, Angelica's half-sister, and the other daughter of Graynamore. Patricia is going to receive the yacht as a gift from her dad for her doing this. She's always tried to distance herself from her dad. She's tried to be the opposite of Angelica. She doesn't work for him, wants nothing from him, but she's always wanted a boat. And so, in order to get this ship, she's got to do this one favor, and then she can have her boat. And after an awkward start between the two, Joe and Patricia end up starting to bond because it's a decent ride, a decent boat trip from California to Waponi Woo. They end up running into a typhoon, though, and Patricia gets knocked unconscious. Joe, being the gentleman that he is, one, and two, again, not having much to live for, so if this typhoon kills him, whatever, he was going to die anyway. He jumps in, he saves Patricia. However, while he's doing that, lightning strikes the boat, and the boat sinks. So now Patricia's doing this for nothing, essentially. Because she wanted nothing from her dad but this boat. Now she doesn't even have the boat. Joe makes a makeshift raft out of those steamer trunks. Told you they were going to come back. And he ends up nursing Patricia back to health. Over several days while they're in the water, he takes the little bit of water that they have and keeps feeding it to her to help, nurse her back and bring her back to consciousness. All the while, he's not drinking any, so he ends up going delirious. It's an interesting juxtaposition there because while he's giving all the fresh water to her, he's denying himself what he needs. Again, what has he got to lose? He's dying anyway. After quite a few days, though, she comes back to consciousness, and they end up miraculously arriving at Waponi Woo, where they were trying to go. Upon their arrival, the Waponi tribe treats them to a grand feast. Before he makes the sacrifice, they're basically going to give him like a little luau. They're going to give him this huge feast in his honor. Let him eat, drink, be merry, have a good old time. When it's time to make the sacrifice, the tribal chief once again announces, is there anybody here that's willing to make the sacrifice? None of the tribe people speak up, so Joe's like, whatever, I'm doing this, so let's do it. And when he gets up to start going to the volcano, Patricia gets up and professes her love for him. She admits that she fell in love. She's never really been in love before. He's never really been in love before. He reciprocates her love, tells her that he loves her too. And when they get up to the top of the volcano, they decide to call the chief. And the chief comes up, and they ask the chief to marry them. Whatever, I'll do that. He marries the two real quickly, and Patricia tries once again to get Joe to reconsider, like, we are now married. You have something to live for. But he's like, this is why I came here, so let's do this. She decides that she's going to do it too. She's not going to live without him because she's fallen in love with him. So they decide to jump into the volcano together. Well, right as they jump in, the volcano erupts and blows them out into the water. Ironically, once again, right next to those steamer trunks. The island ends up sinking because no sacrifice was made. And although for the moment Joe is happy to be alive, he quickly starts to realize that he still only has a few months to live now before he ends up dying. And he tells Patricia all about his situation, all about his trip to the doctor, and she stops him when he mentions the doctor's name because she realizes that the doctor was an employee of her father, and he was set up from the very beginning. There was never anything wrong with him. There never had to be a sacrifice. He is absolutely fine. He just needed a reason to live. And by having these couple of months, and this little bit of time from receiving the diagnosis to meeting her, he's realized now that he has a lot to live for. They're married, and they can live happily ever after. I really enjoyed this movie. Truth be told, I had never seen it prior to this, believe it or not. I know. I consider myself quite the avid Tom Hanks fan, and this is one I had never seen before. I did enjoy it. Did I enjoy it as some of the other stuff? Not really. Is it something that I'm going to watch over and over again of his? Probably not. It was the very first of 3 collaborations, though, between him and Meg Ryan. You know, a couple years later, we would get Sleepless in Seattle, and then at the end of the decade, we'd get You've Got Mail. So this definitely opened the door. It opened the door to those movies and showed the chemistry that they have. I personally am going to give this one 2 stars out of 5. Maybe that's a little bit low, but like I said, it doesn't have the rewatchability for me. I think maybe I'll end up being wrong, and in a few months I'll want to watch this again. But considering how long I've actually had this DVD in my collection before I actually watched it, I'm willing to bet that I'm right. What do you guys think about Joe versus the Volcano? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is it on your list of Tom Hanks favorites? Is it one that you don't care for as much? Let me know. Leave your thoughts in the comment box below. As always, I will respond to them. Let's try to get those hashtags going out there. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios. Hashtag Renegades Reviews. Hashtag Renegade Returns. And of course, hashtag Shenanigans. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what movies you'd like me to tackle in the future. As I said, I do have quite a bit already planned out for the year of 2021. Being as how we're still living in the age of coronavirus as I am doing this, prepping for the launch of the channel, the relaunch of the channel, if you will, bringing Renegades Reviews back to you on a daily basis. So I've got a game plan here already for pretty much all of 2021, but I do need to know what movies you want me to do in the future. Maybe I can put together a special month for some stuff. I'm going to try to theme every month to a certain theme. Like, I know, obviously, this month is Tom Hanks. For the month of March, since March 2020 is going to be WrestleMania, I'm doing movies that star wrestlers. Since May is always May the 4th, I'm going to do all the movies in Star Wars canon, as well as we're going to boldly go where no man has ever gone before, and I'm going to do all the movies in Star Trek canon, all that as well. So Star Wars and Star Trek, May of next year, this year technically. I've got a month that's going to be Marvel movies, a month for DC movies. Obviously, we're going to have a month of horror movies in October and a month of Christmas movies in December. But let me know what else you'd like to see. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. So make sure you go to Teespring and support us and our family of friends and buy our merchandise. And until next time, here on Renegades Reviews, only on the Casa D18 Studios channel, when I will be discussing, also from 1990, The Bonfire of the Vanities, starring Tom Hanks, Bruce Willis, and Melanie Griffith. I am the Renegade JJ Williams, and I will see you next time